Taiwan Kim a name that didn't match his face, using a check that had already been flagged. The police were called. He didn't run. He just sat there, the weight of 100 stolen lives finally catching up to him. Chapter 5. The Price of the High. For Tammy Carroll, the reckoning wasn't a prison sentence. It was a judge's voice. "You're a drug addict," the judge said, looking down at her. "And I don't ever want to see your kids in your care again." The world went silent. Not the silence of a quiet room, but the silence of an empty heart. 3 of her children were in foster care. Her youngest was placed for adoption. No other sentence could have been worse, Tammy would later say. Prison was nothing. Losing my children. That was the day I decided to die or change. She chose to change. She traded the office of forgery for the rooms of recovery. She traded the rush of the bank for the slow, painful work of sobriety. Today, she works the road to sobriety group, using her past not as a source of shame, but as a map for others. She got her children back. She makes in a month what she used to make in a day, and she sleeps with a clean conscience. But for Virginia Dissett, the damage is permanent. The charges were dropped, but the arrest record remains. In the eyes of the system, she isn't innocent. She's just someone they couldn't prove was guilty. Chapter 6. The New Frontier. Identity theft didn't stop with Schreckingist. It evolved. Agents Kirsten Gregg and Danya Davis are the new face of the war. They don't just look for male snatchers, they look for the LimeWire predators. They look for Kim Merritt, an addict who stole $140,000 using file-sharing software to raid unsecured computers. They tracked Kim to a desolate RV on the plains. Inside, they found a microcosm of the modern crime. Credit documents scattered next to a crack pipe. It's an all-consuming lifestyle, Agent Davis observed. The next fix is the only thing that matters. And identity theft is the easiest way to pay for it. While the agents fight the addicts, companies like Trace Security hire good thieves like Jim Stickley to break into their own systems. Stickley, dressed as a fire inspector, walks into banks and walks out with backup tapes containing every customer's social security number. It's really easy, Stickley says with a shrug. If you look the part, people give you the keys to the kingdom. Chapter 7. The $1 Million Shadow. Anita Jans was a woman who believed in the solidity of her life. She had a home, a mortgage, and a credit score she had nurtured like a prize garden. But in September of 2005, a single phone call from a mortgage broker turned her reality into a hall of mirrors. "Anita, I'm looking at your report here," the broker said, his voice hesitant. "I see you have more than one mortgage." Anita laughed. It was a nervous, fluttering sound. "No, I don't think so. I have the one house, the one loan. That's plenty for me. Ma'am, I'm seeing properties. Lots of them. Nearly $1 million worth of real estate in your name." The panic that hit her was physical, a cold, oily sensation that started in her stomach and radiated to her fingertips. Somewhere out there, a stranger had taken her name and used it to buy an entire portfolio of homes. They were building an empire on her foundations, and when that empire inevitably crumbled, she would be the one left in the ruins. The average victim spends 600 hours cleaning up the mess. Anita spent months drowning in paperwork, title companies, and mortgage institutions that treated her like a criminal rather than a casualty. It wasn't until she found ID Watchdog, a new breed of company in the rehab industry, that she felt the first glimmer of hope. "We make sure it's done completely," they told her. But even as her credit report began to clear, the psychological scar remained. "These people don't want your car or your stereo," Anita warned. "They want you. They want your most precious commodity." Chapter 8: The Invisible Infiltrator. If the meth addicts were the blunt force trauma of identity theft, Jim Stickley was the surgical strike. Stickley didn't use drugs, and he didn't need a wig. He needed a uniform and a silver tongue. Working for Trace Security, Stickley's job was to be the good guy who stole everything to show you how easy it was. His favorite role was the fire inspector. With a generic shirt, a fake badge, and a confident stride, he could bypass the most expensive security systems in the world. "We walk into a bank," Stickley explained, his eyes twinkling with the mischief of a man who knew he could rob you blind. "I tell them I'm there for the annual inspection. They see the shirt, they see the badge, and they just give you the keys. They lead you straight to the data center. Inside the server rooms, the high-security vaults, where the digital lives of thousands were stored, Stickley would calmly fill his empty black bags with backup tapes. These tapes contained everything: social security numbers, mothers' maiden names, home addresses, account balances. "We walk out the front door," he said. 90% success rate. And the most terrifying part, we meet with the staff a few days later, and they don't even recognize us in our street clothes. They realize they handed the kingdom to a nice, average guy. Stickley's work proved that identity theft wasn't just about hackers in dark rooms. It was about human nature. It was about our desire to trust a uniform, a smile, and a story. Chapter 9: The Clinical Scam. As the authorities in Colorado and Illinois grappled with thieves and bandits, a new shadow was emerging from a place of prestige: the medical office of Dr. Martinez. Dr. Martinez was a man of high standing, a healer in the eyes of his community. But behind the closed doors of his Chicago clinic, a different kind of alchemy was taking place. He wasn't just treating patients, he was harvesting them. The scheme was simple, clinical, and devastatingly lucrative. He billed for surgeries that never happened. He manipulated insurance codes to extract millions from a system designed to help the sick. But as the federal investigators began to circle, the doctor's panic began to manifest in darker ways. Money was the motive, but the preservation of his lifestyle, the luxury cars, the private schools, The high society invitations was the obsession. When a whistleblower named Joyce Brandon began to ask questions, the doctor faced a choice: the end of his career or something much more permanent. Nobody in the world had any motive to kill Joyce. The prosecutor would later